iron in his soul. What's up, YouTube? This is Iron in the Soul. Back today with another very important message. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video, leave a comment, let me know what you think about my content. In addition to that, please feel free to follow me over on Instagram at @KingJabez, as well as my website, theironinsoul.com, where you can book a consultation or get my book, Becoming Strong as Iron. It will all be greatly appreciated. Well, man, let's do some work. Let's talk about today, in tonight's video, on this Friday night, King David, and how King David retained while on missions. This is such a very powerful teaching. What I've been doing lately is really taking you back to those ancient biblical accounts of the ancient Hebrew men who were fully aware of this discipline and how it helped them spiritually, physically, mentally, and all the various benefits of retention that we talk about today. These men understood this a long time ago. King David, as you know, is one of my favorite characters from the Old Testament. A lot of men respect David because David was a man's man. Okay, let's talk about David for a second. David was called by the Most High at a young age to be a leader. And when you're called by the Most High God to be a leader, this will draw animosity and jealousy, sometimes from your own family. You think about David's life growing up, he had a lot of older brothers, I think like 4 or 5. And they were often jealous of him. They accused him of being kind of like a bad kid, even though he wasn't. And they were really just envious of the ambition in the heart that David possessed at such a young age. He became famous at a young age because he had the courage to face a giant that none of these men could face, even the king himself, King Saul. There was a man from Gath, Gath, named Goliath. You've heard of him. It was a giant. And David was a young man at this point, maybe 16, 17 years old, maybe 18 at the most. Okay? And he had the courage to pursue this giant and to take him down in front of everybody. This was a giant that presented himself before Israel for 40 days. And we've already talked about how 40 is a number of trial and testing. So they were tested and they were proven to be cowards. They were afraid. They were fearful. They were trembling, as it says in one verse. And even King Saul himself didn't want to face this giant. So how many know that sometimes there are young men, and some of you need to hear this message. Some of you guys, man, have the courage to face some giants that older men have not faced yet. You understand? So you think about manhood, just because someone is older than you doesn't mean they have the power or the strength or courage that you have. There are some young men out here, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, who have a fire in them to get stuff done. You know what I mean? And David had that. And so as a young man, he jayed down. He stepped up to the plate and got out there and fought. And he is a man who God says is a man after my own heart. So that tells you something about the Most High. You guys didn't know this. Some of you act like God's a punk. Let Iron and Soul tell you today, officially, God is not a punk. Let me tell you that. He is referred to as a man of war. I want you to understand about God. And so God likes a fighter. Let me talk to you. God likes a strong man. He don't want you to be weak. He likes a masculine man. Let me talk to you. A bearded man, a strong man, a warrior, a worshiper. And this is why David was so powerful. And so he faced this giant at a young age. He became famous. And because of that fame, and what we say today, because of that clout, he clouded up. David clouded up. You know what I mean? If this was in modern terminology, if we had social media today, like they had, if we had social media, or if they had social media rather, back then like we do today, his social media following would have shot up. Everybody talking about him. The women, the men, he was a man in Israel. He was famous, he was known, he clouded up. Became from, I'm painting a picture for you, by the way, became friends with the king's son, Jonathan. They were close. He was liked by everybody. King Saul's daughter wanted to marry David. You know you're the man when the king's daughter wants you and the king's son likes you. That was David. He was accepted by everybody but the old hater, King Saul. Let me talk to you. So the old hater began to put David in bad situations. Tried to get him killed at war. Tried to hurt him. And eventually tried to kill him himself. To the point where David had to run for his life. And that brings us to this part of the story. This is why David and his men were on seed retention. They were on seed retention because they were on a dangerous mission. Let me talk to you, young man. Life is a dangerous mission. Let me talk to you. This iron talk to you. Big iron on deck. You understand me? Big iron. Life, sir, is a dangerous mission. Folks are out here shooting, robbing. There are problems happening in relationships. Work is hard. Family relationships are hard. Raising kids is hard. Being with a woman is hard. Being a man in this modern world is hard. So like David, we are young men, let me talk to you, who are on a dangerous mission that we call life. Life under the sun, when anything can happen. Let's talk about life for a second. And life, it can go from light to dark, just like that. You can go from rich to poor, just like that. From poor to rich, just like that. You understand? Anything can happen. And so like David and his young men who were with him, by the way, he had a crew. Let me encourage that you have some people around you. Don't try to fight by yourself. David didn't fight by himself. He had men with him all the time, by the way. Let me talk to you. This big out on deck. He had a cave full of 400 men. Let me talk to you, sir. Who were his warriors, who fought with him, who held him down, who traveled with him for about 10 years while he was struggling, while he was grinding. You understand? David didn't just wake up one day and become the king. He had to fight for their position. He had to fight for close to 10 years, living in caves, doing odd security jobs. Let me talk to you, sir. Fighting battles, going to different territories. You dig? Going into different states. Let me talk to you, make it practical for you today. Sometimes going to different states, traveling, meeting people. He got out here and made moves. So to be a king, you got to get out here. Let me talk to you, sir. You got to fight. You got to meet people. You have to face battles. You have to have proper relationships with women. You have to have proper relationships with other men. You cannot call yourself a king, sir, if you cannot connect and network with other men and if you can't properly treat women. Bottom line, if you are a king, a part of that is knowing how to relate to men and women in a healthy way. And that's something that King David did before he became a king. So let's bring it to this part of the story. David was on the run. He's on the run from King Saul trying to kill him. And he has these young men with him at war as well. So he goes to the priest, Ahimelech, and he goes to the priest to get some bread, right? To get something to eat, to have their nourishment. And while he's there, the priest asks him, okay, have you at least kept yourselves from women? Because this was holy bread. And this isn't to say that being women is bad. That's not the point. But to have this holy bread, they had to at least have been celibate for a certain amount of days. So David says in 1 Samuel 21 and verse 5, he says, and David answered the priest and said to him, of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days, since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in manner common, yea, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel. So David is saying, we have been on retention for a couple of days at least, right? Some of them might have been on retention for 3 days, 6 days, 7 days, you get the point. But what's the message here today? You have to be on retention when you are on a mission. That's my point of this video today. Let me make that clear. You're on a mission called life, and this mission requires you from time to time to hold on to your seed to give you the strength and the courage and the power you need to fight difficult battles. David being out here in a cave with his men fighting was difficult. Short on money, you hear me? He was short on money, short on food, and he had guys with him and women. So he had to get out here and fight for his life. And so some of you guys listen to me right now, young man, you are fighting for your life. Let me talk for you. You're struggling. It's not an insult. That's reality. You're struggling. Okay? You're fighting to keep your bills paid. You're fighting to keep your mind right. You're fighting to keep yourself in connection with that woman. You understand? To keep yourself connected to God. And when you are in a situation like that, it's important that you utilize this ancient secret we refer to as seed retention. If it was good for King David, sir, it's good for you. If it will be good for those 144,000 virgins I talked about yesterday, I'm going to keep on pressing that. It's good for you. If it was good for Moses and the prophets and all those ancient Hebrew men who made a decision from time to time to hold on to their life essence for the purpose of giving them fuel to face the battles of life. So I make it clear in this video, King David himself and his men, according to 1 Samuel 21, had times, I'm sure this was the only time he did this, by the way. This wasn't the last time. They had times when they were at war, and it was wise for them to hold on to their life essence to give them what? Strength, courage, that mental toughness we need to fight, the ability to have courage to pursue men of power. The priest was a man of power. So David needed courage to go out there and connect with him. See, when you're on retention, guys, it'll give you that courage you need to have the conversation with that man that's on something. You understand? To network with other businessmen, men who have something going on for themselves. When you're not living right, it makes you cowardly. But when you have this courage, this life force, it gives you that boldness to go out there and make things happen. The scripture says it very clearly, and take to the book for a second, the righteous are as bold as a lion. You understand? So when you have that righteousness about yourself, it gives you a lion-like boldness to what? Make moves, to network, to fight battles, to run for your life, to connect with women, to connect with men, and to do what is necessary as a man. To be thorough, as Nipsey Hussle put it, but from a biblical perspective, to be that priest, provider, and protector that you know you're capable of being with the help of the Most High. So guys, just wanted to stop by on this Friday night to give you some food for thought for the weekend. You guys have been working all week, probably just like myself. I got some plans for the weekend. I think this is good food for thought for Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, to reflect and tell yourself, you know what, man, I am on a mission. I am a man on a mission. Let me ground myself. Let me get control of my sexual energy. Let me utilize it, and according to Think and Grow Rich, let me transmute the energy into something productive that can help me over time wisely elevate myself to the level of a genius. King David and his men were on seed retention while they were on a mission. And all of us as men should be on a mission. And while we are on this mission, among other disciplines, of course, this is just one, it is wise to utilize your sexual energy from time to time for the purpose of going forward, fighting wars, and being a man on mission. This is your big brother, Iron and Soul. Thanks for listening. God bless. Peace.